You know, a week from now, somebody wakes up and has an experience like I did with the Girl Scout, and everything changes. So the door usually is always open, unless somebody totally resists the idea of self-improvement. But I think there's enough experiences along the way to prod us and push us a little bit. Or we hear a testimonial, or we read a book,
right,
or somebody buys us a ticket and we go to a seminar, and we're never the same again. You share an idea with someone, two people, one of them says, I see it, and the other one says, it isn't clear to me. You say, why not? It's perfectly clear when you shared it.
Yeah, why can't you see what I see?
Yeah, true. How come you don't feel like I feel? So you have to allow for that. And then we have to allow for it happening even in our own experience, like me with the missing books. I should have and I didn't. I let it go and I should have picked it up. So I guess the key is to do the best we can, and the key is to keep learning from every experience possible. Our own personal experiences, or from someone else's experiences, by sermon,
Yep.
the lyrics of a song, a personal testimonial someone gives you sitting at Denny's for a Tuesday morning breakfast, and something clicks and something happens. You never know.
Yeah, those moments are kind of a mixture of everything coming together,
Yeah.
right timing and your own personal circumstances. So you end up going to work for Earl Shoaf, and you had lots of lessons to learn. What were
Over
some
that
of those?
6-year, 7-year period, he was with me about 5 years, then he died, but at the early age of 49.
Huh.
But those were such dramatic days of incredible change. And the stuff he taught, he only went to the 9th grade in school, so he put things very simply. For the excuses I gave, he said, no, those are not the reasons. I said, things cost too much. He said, no, you can't afford them. You know, little philosophies like that opened my eyes to see.
What was the story where you brought him a paycheck? You said, this is all they pay.
Yeah, this is all they pay. He
I love
says,
this.
no, this is all they pay you. I thought, oh, you're right, I guess. He said, don't some at the company make 3, 4, 5 times this much? And I said, well, yes. And he said, well, this is not all they pay. This is all they pay you. Yeah. If you qualified for the 10 times this, wouldn't they pay you that amount? And I said, I guess they would, of course. He said, well, let's go to work on that.
Yeah.
We don't have to go to work on the company for more pay. We got to go to work on you to become more qualified.
Yeah, they have pay structure already set up for some
already
people.
set up.
You got to fit into that.
And then when in my lectures, I show this little economic staircase, ladder to climb.
Yeah.
Starts at $5 an hour and goes all the way up to $32 million for 1 year.
Right.
1 year's annual income. And somewhere along the way, by what we hear and what we experience, we try to make ourselves better qualified for the next move up.
Yeah.
And that's the key, is to keep moving up, keep growing, keep developing, see what all you can do with your life.
What he was really the first person to give you the idea of personal development, right? What kinds of things was he telling you about the importance of developing yourself? What were some of those lessons that he taught you?
One he used, which really got my attention, he said, why don't you set a goal to become a millionaire? I'm 25 years old. He said, this is America, land of opportunity. Why don't you set a goal to become a millionaire? And then he said, for what it will make of you to achieve it. And I thought, wow, that's a whole different philosophy. Set a goal to become a millionaire for the person you have to become in order to be worth $1 million. Then he said, once you've become a millionaire, you can give the money away, because what's important is not what you got, but the person you became. And I got the message. And that's where I started hearing those phrases from him. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job. Bringing value to the marketplace is how you get paid. The more value you bring to the marketplace, the better your pay. And also you get paid for what you become. A leader, an entrepreneur, a manager, somebody who has the ability to inspire other people.
So somebody's watching and they're saying, okay, work harder on yourself than you do on your job. And they agree with it in principle. They say, yeah, that sounds right. I know I need to work on myself. What would you recommend people do?
I started out with developing a list of skills I didn't have. I'm raised in farm country, southwest Idaho.
Right.
I know how to milk cows, but the pay's not good.
That's right.
So the first thing, and I started part-time, a little sales adventure on how to get customers. It was in health and nutrition, and I believed in the product, And I was taught, here's how you get a customer. And then here's how you ask them, who do they know that wants to be healthier? Then expand your business from there. So that was the first extra skill I learned from just the regular farm skills that started to change my life. So this is part of the personal development, learning that extra skill. In my seminars, I now teach in the 21st century, you need more than one skill. One is for economic safety.
Right.
Here's the guys that's worked for General Motors. They just, closed a couple of plants and laid off, 25,000 people. This guy has been there, let's say, for 15 years. Now he's laid off, and he tells us he's already having economic difficulty. And the reason is, Chris, he only had one skill. You know, over the last 3 or 4 years, if he would have taken accounting 2 nights a week or something,
yeah,
so that when this crisis occurred, he would have something to fall back on. So in my seminars, I teach a whole list of skills I learned by the time I was 31, that not only made me rich, but really broadened the whole scope of my ability to be an entrepreneur, affect other people's lives. And then I got into, of course, teaching and training. But that's part of it. I learned sales. I learned to find good people. I learned to get people to work together. Interesting phrase in the Bible says, if 2 or 3 agree on a common purpose, nothing's impossible. I thought, wow, 2 or 3, not all alone, but 2 or 3. So if you can get inspired and inspire a couple of people to go with you, you could do some pretty extraordinary things. I learned how to do that. Then I learned recognition and rewarding people for steps of progress. You may work for a company and they reward people for the big steps. I've learned to reward people for little small steps of progress. Anything you can think of to give them a reward for making some progress.
It doesn't have to be a big reward.
Doesn't have to be big.
Small,
something small.
Kind word.
Then it comes to a philosophy that says, be so busy giving other people recognition, you really don't need it for yourself. Now you've arrived at a very good place. Your greatest happiness is other people getting rewards, not necessarily yourself. But then Zig comes back with the old philosophy that's so true. If you help enough people get what they want, from either money to recognition or success, you can have everything you want.
Yeah.
I heard Zig say that, I think, almost 50 years ago, 45 plus. And when he said, you can have everything you want, I underlined the word everything.
Because you could want a lot,
and
right?
I said, hey, I think Zig is right. If you help enough people get what they want.
Yeah.
But that's another skill. Then I think the ultimate skill is the skill of communication. And I divided that one into 3 parts. One is training, right? Showing somebody how to do the job. Next is teaching. And I simply use the 2 words for a purpose, teaching life skills. Because one of the things that helped me really revolutionize my life, age 25, was learning how to set goals. Decide what you want, write it down, start checking them off. Where do you want to go? Make that list. Yeah. What do you want for your family? Make that list. I started doing all that. That's called teaching life skills. So if you combine job skills with life skills, your chances now really start to multiply. Then the ultimate in communication is learning to inspire. Helping somebody to see themselves better than they are. Transporting them into the future. Say, Mary, here's who you could become. With just a few changes, I promise you, you'll never be the same again. Here's the kind of person you could become. Confident, strong, able to cope with circumstances and changes. You could be that person.
So do you think that is something that anybody can do? I mean, typically when people think of leaders, they think of the heads of, captains of industry and presidents and, leaders of social movements. Is that something somebody do, middle management in their own career, parents?
Sure. Parents should even learn to do it at home.
Yeah.
Here's the person you could become. We try every means possible, right, especially for our children, to expose them ideas that we know, we translate best we can, or from church, or hopefully from school, from the neighborhood, from the business community where they might get a job and go to work. We just hope and pray that they will be constantly exposed to things that'll cause them to think, change, refine habits, develop skills, have personal satisfaction of the success they want. Mm-hmm. We hope that happens. But it's going to come from a variety of sources, not just one. It's like mentoring. I happened to find somebody who, was the business employer, business partner that I worked with, as well as being a mentor. But sometimes, somebody mentors you in good health. Somebody else mentors you in spiritual matters. Someone else mentors you in family relations. And someone else mentors you in business.
Okay, let's talk now financial independence. Let me first give you my definition of financial independence. Number one, the ability to live from the income of your personal resources. This should be every person who lives in a free country, especially a capitalistic country. This should be everyone's goal, to someday be able to live from the income of your personal resources. Now, how many resources you need, right, depends on how you want to live. But if you wish to live modestly, it doesn't take all that many resources over a fairly brief period of time to have enough resources to live modestly. If you wish to live more lavishly, of course, you need to accumulate more resources. But that's my view of financial independence, so that you can live from the income of your resources. Now, here's what else that does. Now you can choose the work you do. Now you can choose to work or not work. Now you can work not because you have to, but because you want to. When we talk to kids about financial independence, we say, do what you have to as quick as you can so you can do what you want to as long as you can. Next key phrase. Economics is major. Everybody should major in economics, because it's such a vital part of your life. A paycheck is so vital because, first of all, it provides for you and the family's survival. Second, it provides for the opportunity of success. Some people feel we shouldn't spend that much time talking about money, but we really should. Someone says, well, money is the root of all evil. Not true. Here's what it really says. The love of money is the root of all evil. And I'm sure everyone here has dispensed with the idea of falling in love with money, because that serves no purpose. Here's what's noble, what money can do. The projects it can support. The relief from debt it can create. Building a financial wall around your family nothing can get through. So economics is major. The key, of course, is what you do with it. If you earn a lot, you should give a lot. Key phrase from antiquity, here's what it says. If you've been given much, now much is required. If you've been given great responsibility, much is required. If you've been given much wealth, now much is required. Everyone has to solve this about the money to go for. Should you go for the money? Should you go for success? You should earn as much as you possibly can in the reasonable time devoted to economics, job, business. Reasonable time devoted to economics, job, business, future, enterprise. With that enterprise and with that job, the key is to earn as much as you possibly can as you balance your life with everything else. Not at the sacrifice of your friendships, not at the sacrifice of values, not at the sacrifice of integrity, not at the sacrifice of wiping out other values in your life, but within balance of everything. Go as far as you can, earn as much as you can, share as much as you can. Jot this question down. Is it possible in America to multiply your income by 10? Kids would be fascinated with this question. Is it possible to multiply your income by 10? And the answer is, of course, yes. Could you repeat that after me? Yes, of course. That helps to emphasize it. That's called exclamation point. And kids with wide eyes will say, is that right? Can you start at the bottom and someday multiply your income by 10? The answer is, of course, of course, of course. Now, if you multiplied it by 10, can you think of anybody that makes $500 an hour? I'm telling you, the Beverly Hills lawyers where I live make at least $500 an hour. Now we've multiplied income by 10 again. Would it be possible to multiply your income by 10 and then multiply it by 10 again? Now, see, that's a little weak. I'm trying to make you believers. To those that believe, here's what Scripture says. All things are possible. There isn't anything that's impossible. The most incredible things are possible to believers. Not hopers. Not hopers. Believers. Wow. $500 an hour. Would it be possible to multiply your income by 10 again? Of course. $5,000 an hour? What do you suppose I get paid? I'm telling you, it's possible to multiply your income by 10 and then by 10 and then by 10. I lecture with Norman Schwarzkopf, the old general. Guess what he gets paid for his speech? $65,000 for 1 hour. 65,000, not 5,000, right? 65,000. I had lunch with Colin Powell, and I was on that speaking panel for one of those multi-speaker seminars. And I think he got paid like $70,000. It's a fun lunch with somebody that gets paid $75,000 for an hour. Unbelievable. Now, the person that's on up here, right, like Bill Gates and, who knows who else here, that makes $68 million in 1 year. We say, well, is that legitimate to pay someone $68 million in 1 year? And the answer is, of course. If they helped the company make $1 billion last year, would the company pay them $68 million? And the answer is yes, it's chicken feed. It ain't that much. Key phrase to jot down, everything is relative. Everything is relative. What might seem like a lot now, I'm telling you, some time from now for you won't seem that much. You say, wow, I was a small thinker back then, thinking, $4,000 a month was a lot of money. $8,000 a month was really something. I remember those days when $8,000 a month was unbelievable. And then $15,000 a month. Wow, I couldn't believe it. How about $20,000 a month? Incomprehensible. And I flew on by that. How about $30,000 a month? I flew on by that. Unbelievable. How about 50? How about 80,000 a month? I remember when I went right on by. It was incredible. Getting paid by the week. I remember when it was, right, 20,000 a week and then 30,000 a week. How about $40,000 a week? How much property will they let you own? As much as you want, all you want and all you wish. Here's the country you live in, all you want and all you wish. That's about as good as we can make it. Next, here's the philosophy of the rich and the philosophy of the poor. First, the philosophy of the poor. Poor people, now this is not demeaning now, this is simply people of modest means. People of modest means tend to spend their money and invest what's left. If they have anything left over, they might save it or invest it. That's the philosophy, the poor philosophy. To spend your money, save what's left. Here's the philosophy of the rich. To invest your money and spend what's left. It's the same money. It's just a different attitude and a different philosophy. Either spend your money, save what's left, or invest your money, spend what's left. Now, here certainly is the better philosophy, to invest your money and spend what's left. Let's talk now about what to do with the dollar, especially for teenagers and for kids. This is really important, because this is one of the best places to start when you're like 15 years old. mid-teens, this is a great place. What to do with the dollar. Now, here's the tendency on attitude, because attitude determines so much of our lives. What difference does it make if a child has $1 when you ask what should he do with it? It's only a child and it's only $1. But see, here's where it all begins. Your financial journey begins with what you do with the first $1. That's where it begins. Now, sure, you can do the wrong things and finally correct that and get on a better path, but it all begins on what you do with your resources. Jot this phrase down. It's one of the best for the weekend. Here's the 2 challenges of life. Number 1, the development of our full potential. That's challenge number 1. Challenge number 2 is the wise use of all our resources. That sums up life in general. The development of all of our potential and the wise use of all our resources. One of our resources is time, and we talked about that. Now we're going to talk about the wise resource called money. And let me share with you now a little plan. Because when I met Shof, and he asked me about my financial condition, he said, how much money have you saved and invested the last 6 years? And I said 0. He said, not a good number. Here's what I told him. If I had more money, I'd have a better plan. Now, jot this down, because here's what he said. If you had a better plan, you would have more money. Next key phrase, it's not the amount that counts, it's the plan that counts. So let's start with something now as seemingly as small as $1. What should you do with it? Here's what we teach, teenagers especially. You should never spend more than 70 cents. Never spend more than 70 cents of each dollar you earn, or each dollar that comes your way, by gift or by labor. Now, you've got to have some plan what to do with your dollar. I've developed this little plan simply for suggestion, and then you've got to do the rest or revise it and do whatever you want to with it. But here's what I teach. Never spend more than 70 cents. You got to pick something, some number. This is the best one I could figure out. Now we've got another 10 cents, and another 10 cents, and another 10 cents, which is the 30 plus the 70, which is the full dollar. So we spend nothing more than 70 cents. Now what do we do with the other 30? Here's some of the most important information. 10 cents is for charity, or for church, or whatever worthy projects you think you might engage in. Here's one of the best things to teach kids, generosity. Because first we're going to teach abundance, to provide more than you could use for yourself. The be fruitful philosophy means to produce more than you need, so you have more than necessity. You have some to share. Some churches teach a 10%, a tithe they call it, which is fine. The key is to either administer this 10 cents yourself or to give it to some institution, a church or whatever, and let them spread it around. Let them put it where it's needed. Now, if you're going to give to some charity or church, you must let them take you on the tour and show you where it goes. Okay, if you part with the money, let them give you the tour. Here's where the 10% goes if you're going to tithe. Because now that gives you great joy to give 10%. Because you say, hey, here's what it's doing, here's what it's doing, here's where it's going, here's who gets it. Okay? Now the next 10 cents is called the use of capital. Here's what capital and capitalism is. So jot this down. Capital is any value you set aside. Capital is any value you set aside to be invested in an enterprise that brings value to the marketplace, hoping to make a profit. That's what capital and capitalism is. I can say it in one sentence. Capital is any value you set aside to be invested in an enterprise that brings value to the marketplace, hoping to make a profit. Now, the capital is the value you set aside. Taking capital and investing it in an enterprise and bringing the value to the marketplace we call capitalism. Capital and capitalism. Now, who can understand this? First of all, the farmers understand it. Here's what seed corn is. It's capital. It's seed corn means the seed that you set aside to be planted in the ground, take care of in the summer, hoping to have a profit and a harvest in the fall. So the farmer sets aside his seed corn. Question, would he let his family eat it? No, this seed is not to be eaten. It's to be invested in the ground, to take a risk, cared for in the summer, harvested and multiplied in the fall. That's it. Now the same is true of some of your money. If you set aside, and I suggest, part of your capital should be set aside for an enterprise to show a profit. And we can teach kids the early fundamentals of capitalism. Now, once the kid has $1 profit, now what should he do with the dollar? This is the formula that I've come up with, what to do with that dollar. Don't spend more than 70 cents, 10 cents for church or charity, 10 cents to invest back into your business so that someday you can buy more than one bottle and get it a little cheaper so that when you sell it, you make a little more money. Now, here's the other 10 cents. It's 10 cents that you invest and let someone else use it. This is called active capital, where you actually engage in the enterprise that makes a profit. Now, another 10 cents is for passive capital, where you let someone use this 10 cents out of every dollar. You put it in a bank that pays interest. They use it, and they pay you for the use of this money. That's called passive capital. So we've got active capital and passive capital. Maybe you invest this in a stock, eventually, if you have enough money, and the stock pays you dividends, and also there may be an increase in the value of the stock. So this is the little formula I come up with, 70, 10, 10, and 10. It's very simple. And kids can figure it out, kids can understand it. Enterprises that kids can be involved in starting early. Now, when you first start, if you're an adult now, you may be in such bad shape financially that you couldn't do the 70, 10, 10, and 10. If you're in real bad shape, you may have to do the 97, 1, 1, and 1. Because it may take this to pay your bills if you haven't had a good plan up until now. But jot this down now. It's not the amount that counts, it's the plan that counts. So let's say you were in such poor financial shape, you had to start 97, 1 for charity, 1%, another 1% for active capital, another 1% for passive. Now here's the key. To get these numbers starting up and get this number starting down. If you will actually do this, you can't believe how exciting it is to watch the numbers change. Remember what Shoaff said. If you will change what? Everything will change for you. If you start to change, I'm telling you, these numbers will start to change. And the first thing you know, these numbers keep going up, 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 until finally you can get to the 70, 10, 10, and 10. When I was 25 years old, my mentor, Mr. Shoaff, said, "Show me your current financial plan for the future." And of course, I didn't have one. He said, well, this would be a good time to lay out a good financial plan for the future, what to do with your money. And I came up finally with the 70, 10, 10, and 10. Don't spend more than 70% of your income. 10% for church or charity. 10 cents active capital, buy and sell, see if you can make a profit. And 10% for passive capital, let somebody else use your money. Pay you interest, dividends, stock increase, whatever. It's a pretty good plan, 70, 10, 10, and 10. A lady in Mexico the other day said, "I heard your plan 10 years ago. I followed it." She said, "I'm now a millionaire. I own 2 different properties because you also said don't buy the second car until you've bought the second house. It's not cars that make you rich. It's real estate that makes you rich." She said, I'm now about to buy the third house, so I'm now giving myself the luxury of buying the third car. Simple little ideas. And she said, I followed the 70, 10, 10, and 10, taught it to other people. They're following it and getting great results. One thing I didn't know when I was growing up and found out at age 25, that you could work both on your living and your fortune at the same time if you had a good plan. Don't just work on your living, work on your fortune. Work on becoming financially independent. Financial independence is the ability to live from the income of your personally invested resources. And the day you can finally do that, what's exciting about that is that now you can work for joy and not for necessity. And strangely enough, you probably work a lot harder for joy than you do for necessity. I have a unique friend. He started an enterprise, and by the time he had it up and running about 2.5, 3 years, he didn't have to work anymore the rest of his life. So now he's financially independent. But then he created a vast fortune, that next 20 years of his life, simply because he was working for joy and not for necessity. So get to that position as quick as you can. So I'm now teaching. Work both on your living and your fortune. The reason for earning a living is to make a fortune, not necessarily from your living, but from what you earn, invested wisely. I talked to a lady the other day. She said, Mr. Rohn, I'm in real estate. I said, wonderful. How many properties do you own? She said, no, I sell real estate. I said, well, let me ask you one more time. How many properties do you own? Finally got the message across. I said, the reason for selling real estate is to earn the money to buy real estate. If you sell real estate, you make a living. If you buy real estate, you make a fortune. She said, I got the message. So don't buy the second car until you've bought the second home.
While emotions provide the fuel that launches your journey of life change, it's your philosophy of life that provides the foundation of that journey. Jim Rohn had to make several philosophical changes himself when he began to walk a new road at age 25. These same philosophies can also make a big difference in your life.
Now I want to pass it along to you, some of the philosophies that changed my life forever. Here's the first one. Profits are better than wages. Once I understood that, I got rich. Profits are better than wages. Nobody taught me that in high school. I never heard it. I'm 25 and broke. I'm not destitute. I'm broke. Too much month at the end of the money is broke. And I finally hear this philosophy. Profits are better than wages. Now here's the phrase that goes with it. Wages make you a living, which is fine. Profits make you a fortune, which is super fine. And you can live both fine and super fine. You've now got the mechanism and the ways and means to do that. Profits are better than wages. Guess what? I taught this in Moscow when I was teaching capitalism. The communists had it all wrong. They taught that capitalism was, a big company that oppresses its workers. I mean, it was absolutely ridiculous. They had mentally lost it when they came up with this ridiculous philosophy. Communism taught capital belongs to the state, not the people. And we taught all these years what? Capital belongs in the hands of the people, not the state. That's why, of course, kids should pay taxes, because they can be capitalists, and all capitalists should pay taxes. Capitalism better than communism. Communism said people are too dumb and stupid to know what to do with capital. So you must take capital away from all the dumb, stupid people and give it to the all-wise, all-knowing state. And let the state run everything. I mean, that was communism. And they devastated every country they touched. I've been to East Germany. It's taking $1 trillion just to clean up East Germany. They've already spent $500 billion. They got $500 billion more to go. I mean, every country they touched, and I've been in all of them, they devastated them all with their devastating philosophy. We teach capital belongs in the hands of the people. That's where the ingenuity is, to bring goods and services to the marketplace. But once I understood this now, it was so incredible. Profits are better than wages. Now, when I first was recruited, I'm a distributor for this little product called Can you imagine what that's like then, to get up in the morning? To go to work on your fortune? Not to go to work to pay the rent, which is okay. But a chance to go to work to make a fortune? And I said, right now I'm working part-time on my fortune and full-time on my job. But it won't be long until I'll be working full-time on my fortune. Can you imagine what life is going to be like? Now, here was my first goal when I started. And that was part-time. I wanted to equal on my profits part-time what I was earning on my full-time job. This is called the magic of part-time. It is so thrilling for people to start working the business part-time, because now you can work on profits, and it doesn't take very long. If you'll really concentrate on those 10, 12, 15 hours a week, it won't be long if you really do it right and learn some of the skills I'm going to talk about. It won't be long until you can be earning as much part-time working on your fortune as you are full-time working on your job. I did that in less than 6 months. Now I've got an incredible invitation. I found a way part-time to work on my fortune, and I'm making as much money at that as I am on my full-time job. Would you like to hear my story? It was incredible. Now, here was my second goal: to make twice as much money part-time working on my fortune as I was working full-time on my job. And I reached that in less than a year. Making twice as much money part-time working on my fortune as I was full-time working on my job. Now I've got an incredible invitation that won't quit. I found a way, through a unique opportunity, to work part-time on my fortune, and I'm now earning twice as much money as I am working full-time on my job. Would you like to hear my story? Do you imagine anybody would say, "No, I don't care to hear your story"? No. Everybody I said that to said, "Wow, yes, what are you doing?" I said, "I'm glad you asked. Let me tell you." Now, when I started making twice as much money part-time as full-time, here's my dilemma. I didn't want to go full-time. And why not go full-time? And the reason was because I didn't want to give up my electrifying story. Right? It was so powerful, nobody could resist the invitation to at least take a look. I didn't want to give it up, and I hung on for I don't know how long until it was, almost insane. And then finally, reluctantly, I gave up my full-time job. But now you can imagine the thrill and excitement of going to work full-time on my fortune. It was incredible. Here's the next one. Philosophy that helped change my life. It's not what happens that determines your life future. It's not what happens that determines your life future. It's what you do about what happens. All of us are in like a little sailboat. And it's not the blowing of the wind that determines your destination. It's the set of the sail. So jot this phrase down. It's one of the best to understand. Kids need to understand it. The same wind blows on us all. The wind of disaster, the wind of opportunity, the wind of change. The wind when it's upside down, the wind when it's favorable and unfavorable. The same wind blows on us all. The economic wind, the social wind, the political wind. The same wind blows on everybody. The difference in where you arrive in 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, the difference in arrival is not the blowing of the wind, but the set of the sail. And that's what learning is all about, to set a better sail this year than last year. To set a better sail. The first 6 years of my economic life, I wound up broke. Second 6 years, I wound up rich. You say, well, the Democrats must have finally gotten power. No. It was not a political change. Here's what changed the second 6 years of my economic life. It was my philosophy that changed. The set of the sail of better thinking, correcting the errors of the past and picking up new disciplines for the future. That's all I had to do at the end of the first 6. Correct the errors of the past and then pick up some new disciplines for the future. And my total life changed. The second 6 years was totally different than the first 6 of my working life. And guess who can do that? Anybody. Now you can keep on the same path for the next couple of years as you have the past 2. But if you wish to, and maybe everything's okay for you and you don't need to, but if you need to make some changes, I'm telling you, you can start doing it today so that the next 2 years will be drastically different than the last 2. And anybody who wishes to do that can. And you can do it between ages 40 and 43. You can do it between ages 13 and 15. You can do it between ages 60 and 62. Any 2 years, any 5 years that you wish to drastically change from the previous 5, you can do it. If you wish to. Now, this isn't written. This is not a law. Here's what it's called, opportunity. But if you don't know you can change, if you don't know you can drastically change your income, change your future, change your health, change your marriage, change everything, if you don't know that, some people then go year after year after year after year not making much change simply because they didn't get to the class. They never read the book. They never went to the seminar. They never made the discovery. They didn't seek for the knowledge of how could I make my life better. And if you just rock along, I'm telling you it's okay. Anybody can live any way they choose, but I'm here to tell all of you that if you wish to, it's possible to make the next 3 years totally different than the last 3. And all you have to do is just a few things. So if you got that one now, it's not the blowing of the wind that determines your income. It's not the blowing of the wind that determines your fortune. It's the set of the sail. And that's why we gathered here today. Maybe I've got some ideas that'll help you with a couple of little things about setting the sail of your thinking that might drastically give you multiplied more benefit the next 3 years than you've gotten in the last 3. So it's not what happens. What happens to everybody. Chevron years ago brought me in to talk to management. They said, Mr. Rohn, you travel around the world and you're fairly knowledgeable. What do you think the next 10 years are going to be like? I said, gentlemen, I can tell you I do know the right people. So they all leaned forward and listened carefully. And I said, gentlemen, the next 10 years are going to be about like the last 10. The next season after fall is, well, I promise you that's not going to change. After day comes night. I promise you that's not going to change. Here's how the last 6,000 years reads. If you want to make a note of Jim Rohn's vision of history the last 6,000 years, here's how it reads. Opportunity mixed with difficulty. It's going to read like that, looks like, for the next 6,000 years. Opportunity mixed with difficulty. Now, sometimes there seems to be more opportunity than difficulty, and then sometimes there seems to be more difficulty than opportunity, but the mix isn't going to change. After expansion comes recession. But after recession comes expansion. Not to think so, see, is naive. And once you've got just a little of this stuff settled, then you know exactly what to do. You know exactly what to anticipate, so you can be ready. Now, here's the next one. Here's what it says. For things to change, you have to change. I was hoping the government would change and taxes would change and economics would change and my boss would change and be more generous. I wished for everything to change, and my teacher said, no, Mr. Rohn, for things to change for you, you have to change. Don't wish it was easier, wish you were better. Once I understood this, this altered the course of my life. Don't wish it was easier, wish you were better. And here's the big one. Don't wish for less problems, wish for more skills. You don't need less problems. You simply need more skills. Don't wish for less challenge, wish for more wisdom. Accept the challenge, because you can't grow without a challenge. You can't get rich without a challenge. You can't fly without gravity. You have to understand the challenge. But that's the key, is to now develop wisdom to overcome the challenge. Don't wish for less challenge, but more wisdom. And then here's one more philosophy that helped change my life forever. You can do the most remarkable things no matter what happens. Humans can do the most remarkable things no matter what happens. Philosophies that changed my life. I got rich by the time I was 31. Here's the best advice I give my teenage friends. It was easy. What can I tell you? It was hard? No, it was easy. I'm a millionaire by 31. Let me tell you how I did it. I got 3 reasons why I got rich by the time I was 31. Let me give you those. Here's number 1. I lived in America. I mean, how lucky can you get? America's easy. That's why everybody wants to come here. People haven't plotted and schemed for 50 years saying, if I could just get to Poland, everything would be okay. No. No. The boat people are not desperately trying to get to Vietnam. No. They're not squeezing through the fence to try to get into Mexico. No. Neil Diamond says, looks like everybody's heading for. They're all coming to America. Why? Everybody wants to come here by every means possible to get here. Why? Because America's easy. So if you go home with anything, go home with that. Mr. Rohn reminded us that America's easy. He got rich by the time he was 31. America's easy. Bangladesh is hard. Just take that home. Here's the average yearly income in Bangladesh, $120. That would be hard. Tell me hard versus easy. So America's easy. Cambodia would be hard. The Khmer Rouge killed 2 million Cambodians to make communism work. That's hard. America is easy. India would be hard. They got their challenges these days. Tough. America's easy. China would be really hard. Underline really and make a study. It's hard. America's easy. And now in about 90 days you can have that memorized. I'm telling you, that's all you need. I got rich by the time I was 31. I lived in America. America's easy. Now here's number 2. I found an opportunity. That's all you got to do in America, search for an opportunity. Take the first one, right? Try it. If that isn't it leads to another. One door closes, another door opens. This is what's exciting about America. It's full of opportunity. A chance to try, and then what? Try again, and then what? Try again? Never run out of opportunity to try. See if you can't better your life and your health and your future and your bank account and your income. Make your fortune here. I lived in America, number 1. Found an opportunity, number 3. Number 2, here's number 3. I found a teacher. What a grand and glorious, unique thing that was for me at that time in my life. I found a teacher willing to teach me. And his teaching came in 2 parts. Here's what it was. Very simple. Number 1, Mr. Rohn, you have evidently messed up between ages 19 and 25. Now, I could understand that. But he didn't leave me there. He said, now here's the answers on how to change it all, the next 6 years, so that the next 6 years won't be like the last 6. What an incredible teacher. Taught me how to have a whole brand new 6 years. First 6, what? I messed up. Second 6, what? I got it right. Second 6 years, I became a millionaire. During that second 6 years, the government was about the same. I'm telling you. Interest rates were about what? The same. The pay scale was about what? The same. Lord knows my negative relatives were the same. Circumstances were about the same. The economy was about the same. The unions and their philosophy was about the same. What was going on around me was about the same. Then how come I got rich that second 6 years? I was not the same. I changed. You say, well, Mr. Rohn, if you can do that, can anybody do it? Yes, I invite you on that journey. Anytime you want to. You can stay the same so that the next 6 years will be like the last 6. Take a look at the last 6 years. And I'm telling you, the next 6 years of your life is going to be like the last 6. Unless you want to count on this short list that we call not much list. Most everybody's counting on this not much list. What if all of your negative relatives turn positive? What would that do for your future and your fortune? What? Not much. Not much. What if prices came down a little? What will that do for your future? I'm telling you, not much. If the economy gets a little better, what will that do? Not much. Now that the Democrats are in power, what's that going to do for your future? Not much. We could get a good debate going here. If the Republicans would have stayed in power, what would that have done? Not much. Hey, we could get a good debate going here. I'm telling you, it's a not much list. If you don't make plans of your own, guess what? You'll probably always fit into someone else's plans. Guess what someone else may have planned for you? Then what's going to make the difference? You're going to have to make the difference. You're going to have to take charge. Now, Mr. Schoaf, my teacher, gave me a promise, and I want to give you that promise now. Here was the promise I got, and I bring it to you. Here's what my teacher said. If you will change, Mr. Rohn, he said, if you will change, everything will change for you. You don't have to change the government. You don't have to change prices. You don't have to change taxes. Forget all that. He said, if you will change, everything will change for you. And the first thing you start changing is what? Your philosophy. You start changing your mind. You start changing how you think. You start picking up new ideas and information. Gather new knowledge. Make better decisions about what's valuable. And I'm telling you, if you'll do that, your whole life will change. Your health will change. Your relationship with your family will change. Your ability to cope with challenges and problems will change. I'm telling you, income, promotions, all of it will change. If you will change, it'll all change. If you won't change, it isn't going to change. You can keep your fingers crossed if you want to and hope they'll straighten it out. You can wish for the wind not to blow quite as severe, but I'm telling you, wishing for the wind to change in your favor, we call naive at best. Don't do this any longer. Wish for a better wind. The key is to wish for the wisdom to set a better sail. Utilize whatever wind it blows to take you wherever you want to go. That is the philosophy I picked up at age 25, and it revolutionized my whole life. And here's what I found. I found it was easy. I got rich by the time I was 31, and it was easy. Now, here's my definition of easy. Got to jot this down. My definition of easy, meaning something I could do. I figure if it's something you can do, it's easy. Now, here's a parenthesis. Parenthesis, I worked hard at it. I found something I could do, which was easy, but I worked hard at it. I got up early and stayed up late, worked hard that 6 years. But what I did was easy, meaning it was something I could do. You say, well, Mr. Rohn, if it was so easy, how come everybody else around you during that 6 years, how come they didn't get rich? Here's why. It's easy not to. How else would you describe it? That's it. You say, no. For all of the rest of them, it was hard for them and it was easy for you. That's not true. You couldn't debate me on that in front of this intelligent audience. But here's the challenge. Let me give it to you in a philosophical phrase. I tend to be a little philosophical. Here it is. The things that are easy to do are also easy not to do. That's the difference between success and failure. So you've got the choice here today of one of two easies. Easy to or what? Easy not to. I can give you in one sentence how I got rich by the time I was 31. Here it is in one sentence. I did not neglect to do the easy things I could do every day for 6 years. Underline. I did not neglect. That's the key. I found something easy I could do that led to fortune, and I did not neglect to do it. Major reason for not having everything you want in America. Major reason for not having more of what you want in America. More health, more money, more power, more influence, more everything. Major reason why you don't get it. Simple answer. Neglect. Neglect. And here's the problem with neglect. It starts as an infection. And if you don't take care of it, it becomes a disease. And here's what else is the problem. One neglect leads to another. Neglect to do wise things with your money, you'll probably neglect to do wise things with your time. Neglect to do wise things with your time, you'll probably neglect to do wise things with your business. One leads to another, leads to another. Pretty soon, neglect has you by the throat, emptying your purse, emptying your heart, emptying all of your chances for equities and power and all the good things. Neglect. What if you should be walking around the block every day for your good health and you don't? I'm telling you, you're on the wrong track. You should do it, you could do it, you don't do it. That's called formula for disaster. All you've got to do is let that and a few other things accumulate for 6 years, and now you're driving what you don't want to drive, wearing what you don't want to wear, living where you don't want to live, doing what you don't want to do, maybe having become what you really didn't want to become. I'm telling you, that's it. Just neglect along, drift along, and it's got you by the throat. It'll take all your values, leave you with just a little bit of dust in a summer wind, and it'll soon be gone. I hope I said that well. That's it. It's where I found myself at age 25 until my teacher came along and said, Mr. Rohn, up till now you've messed up. Let's see if we can't clean that up, change it all. I did. Changed my life. Not just the money, all the rest of the values that came pouring in when I understood that it was me. It was me. So take the easy approach. This stuff's easy to figure out. Getting rich is easy. I teach it to teenagers. How to be rich by 40. 35, if you're extra bright, this stuff is not difficult. I love to teach kids enterprise.
I asked a guy one time, it's been many years ago, I said, what did your television cost? I knew he was a great television watcher. He said $400. I said, that's not true. He said, no, I paid $400 for this television set. I said, well, let me tell you what I think it's costing you, because I know what kind of talent and skills you've got. I think it's costing you about $40,000 a year. Not to own it, but to watch it. It's not owning a television set that's expensive. It's watching it that's expensive. What else could you do at that time? One, if you've got plenty of money in terms of lifestyle. But if you haven't got plenty of money, what if you took the television time and properly employed it by learning a couple of extra skills? No telling what would happen to your income. I mentioned this to this guy. He got so inspired and convicted with my little talk there that he had his brother-in-law bring over his pickup and haul away his television set. He said, well, you could just take it away yourself. I said, no, I don't want to do that. You know, I want to do it right now. Come and get this thing and take it away. He said, I've got a new philosophy. I'm going to take my TV time and turn it into fortune. See, all it takes is an idea, and it doesn't have to be that radical, but he wanted it to make a statement. Let's get this thing out of here. And later, you know, he had another television, but now he learned to shut it off and use time wisely. But at the moment, he wanted to prove to himself that he was ready to do something radical. Said, Jim Rohn is right. This television is costing me a fortune. Not to own it. Owning is cheap. Watching it's what's expensive. So you just have to learn to ration the time. Television is useful, but you got to wisely use it. It's like food. You must wisely use food. In leadership, we teach enough food to be healthy and gather strength, and no more. So you just have to learn the no more. Make that your philosophy. How much rest? Enough to be healthy and gather strength, and no more. Why would you spend any more than just enough to gather strength and be healthy on both food and rest? But if you overindulge in food and rest, they become a detriment now, not a support. So I think if you look at things that way, let them serve but not intrude, it's like a television set. If you let it serve, fine, but if you let it intrude on everybody's time, the average family watches television, 7 hours a day? See, that's probably too much. It's not that the television isn't good, it is good, but it's too much time devoted to one fairly intrusive instrument in your house. So let it serve, not intrude. That's a good philosophy. I find if you come up with a philosophy and an attitude, it helps to set the tone of things you do, don't do, correct, rearrange,
turn upside down, try it another way until something works better for you. I think that's good advice. How many stories do we hear now of some people that are addicted to the computer? The wife says, honey, let's go. And he can't let go. He can't shut it off. Then you know you've got a problem, right? So I think everything, doesn't matter whether it's alcohol or drugs or computer or being online. I found out, not from my own experience, but from others I know, it's possible to be online and off track. So you got to make sure when you're online that you're not off track. But it's not difficult to be online and off track in terms of time allotment, what absorbs your attention. If all of your thoughtful time is used for busy time rather than creative time, then the encroachment on your creative time is just probably too heavy. We need time to think. Napoleon Hill's book says think. Nowadays, they say get online. Napoleon says no, think. Think and let's grow. Let's all think and grow rich. Think of better ways to do things. Think of a better time, a day schedule. Think of better ways to be creative, not just busy.